All right, what do we have here? We have the K200B5 that came with a silver sparkle case. That mouse nest was inside here. So far, not too much damage. I noticed this is the foot switch, which basically turns on and off the reverb remotely. It doesn't do anything too fancy. You can't do special effects and things like this through the foot switch or anything like that. It's not a audio component. It's really just a on-off switch for the reverb. And you notice it goes to this board on the bottom, which is the reverb, and that's where all these wires come from. There's 4 channels in this amplifier, so all 4 channels, there's 4 reverb knobs. So this is where the blend comes in for the input signals. Sorry. So the 4 input signals get sent onto here through the front panel. This was reported to not turn on. So the obvious things there to look for is hopefully not this. This is usually so overbuilt this doesn't go, but who knows. If you get a lightning strike, something's got to give. This is a thermal switch, which is normally closed. This silver rail down here is a heat sink for the 4 transistors that sit in here, 2 on this side, 2 on this side. So if this gets too hot, this will open up and cut power. It's 120 volts here actually. But I tested continuity. This is currently closed, so that's not the issue. The other thing they did back here, back in the day, is they put in a fuse, but they soldered it in. This isn't a socketed, which would be marginally better. You still have to open up the case to replace the fuse, but you wouldn't need a soldering iron. But I tested this fuse and it is good. So if I have another socket, I will be replacing this with a socketed fuse. Probably the right way to do it would be to drill a hole here in the back and put in out the back a fuse holder. But first things first, we don't even know if this is going to work. The other thing I'm going to do is I'll disconnect some of the wires on here and I'll test these capacitors. These are the filter capacitors. They're only 50 volt maximum. So basically AC power comes in here. Everything else is good with the fuses and the front switch. The rectifier knocks it down. Knocks it down. This knocks it down. There's a 40 volt lead. So these are 40 volts coming in, 4,500 microfarads for capacity. This is basically the reservoir of power that the power amp, which is this backboard, runs off of. Well, it runs everything, but primarily that's where your power consumption is. And so if there's a draw for power, it doesn't have to expect the transformer to supply an endless supply or a bottomless supply. This is basically a little bladder of electrical energy at 40 volts that it can draw on, and it'll get replenished through the transformer, but it's kind of a buffer. Anyway, everything here looks like it should. The vintage of everything looks good. These old wire wound resistors, these don't go bad. Sometimes they break off of the circuit board. The leads get broken off. But these 4 transistors, I can not test very easily because typically you can't test transistors in board because there's too many other things connected to it. There could be resistors between 2 of the legs of the transistor. But these guys are easy to test because there's a little socket. I can lift this little rubber thing up and I get the 2 pins, and then this is the ground. So I can test these. They're probably RCA 36895s. I've had. This is what comes out, by the way, out of a lot of things. And those are the transistors that I'm typically going to run into. But could be the light bulb, I guess. That's the other thing that, why didn't it turn on when I flipped the switch? I have to go through that pile of mouse nest because I dropped some of the nuts and screws as I was taking out the reverb tank here. But I don't see anything too scary. It's almost worth to test. I do have a Variac there, that red thing in the back. Those are all takeout capacitors from prior projects. I will test these, like I said, and see whether they're within usability, at least for initial testing. But that's it. So far, so good.